Here's exactly how to clear a handgun and make it safe, step by step. Hey, Caleb here, the founder of Patriot Training Center, and today I'm going to share with you exactly how to clear a handgun and make it safe, step by step. Now, why is this so important? Because of the 4 fundamental rules of safety. As long as you follow these 4 fundamental rules of safety, it's almost impossible to have an accident with a firearm. You can't hurt yourself, and you can't hurt a loved one, and you can't hurt innocent people, okay? So it's very important that these aren't just range safety rules, but these are rules that we apply across our daily life anytime that we're interacting with firearms. So what are those rules? Rule number 1, all guns are always loaded. We'll get back to that. Rule number 2, never let the muzzle cover anything that you're not willing to destroy. Rule number 3, keep your finger off the trigger until your sights are on target and you've made the decision to shoot. And rule number 4, always be aware of your target and what is surrounding it. Now again, if you follow these rules every single time, then it's almost impossible to have a firearms accident. It simply will not happen because every single one of them backs up the other rules. You have to make a catastrophic error by ignoring 2 or 3 of these rules to have an accident. So that's why they're so great and they have stood the test of time. But like I said, you have to make it a part of your lifestyle every single time that you're interacting with firearms, not just at the range, not just when it's for real, and not just when you think the gun is loaded. You have to follow them all the time and make them habitual. So going back to rule number 1, treat all firearms as if they are always loaded. All guns are always loaded. The meaning behind this is that you always have to treat all firearms like they're loaded. So what this means is that every single time that you pick up a gun off a table, out of a holster, anywhere, you really only have 2 options. And I think the beauty and the simplicity of this rule was best explained by Tom Gibbons, who I highly respect, and he has just a simple way of explaining things that I think I will try to quote it verbatim for you here. What this means is this leads to a simple 2-way branch. If you're going to shoot it, then shoot the gun. And if you wish to do anything else with it, you have to clear it first. Now, what does clear it mean? That means clear it of ammunition. That means unload the gun so that you can do anything else. Now this also includes every single time you put it back in the holster or every single time that it leaves your possession out of your hand and you put it down on a table or anything else like that. Every single time you pick up a gun, you go back to this 2-way branch. So choice number 1, if I'm going to shoot this, then I'm going to shoot it because that's what I'm determined to do. Choice number 2 is I have to clear it if I'm going to do anything else. So with a semi-automatic firearm, you have to clear it. And here's exactly how to do that step by step. And just as a side note, I'm using dummy rounds in this gun so that I can show you everything in a very safe manner. First, we're going to keep our finger off the trigger and we're going to grab the gun with our primary firing grip like we always should every single time that we pick up a gun. Again, we're trying to make this habitual. And the first thing you do with a semi-automatic firearm is you remove the source of ammunition. That means we're going to hit the mag release, which is right here on the side of the gun. We're going to hit that and drop the magazine out. So now the magazine, full of bullets, is no longer in the gun. We're going to stow this away, but we're not done yet. The second thing that we're going to do is we're going to eject the round that could be in the chamber. If not, we're going to check to see if there's a round in the chamber. So we're going to eject it, a round just came out, and then we're going to lock the slide back. The way that I lock the slide back is this little slide lock here. Every gun is different, but they all have one. I'm going to push up on this lever with my thumb, and I'm going to let it lock back. So now, the chamber is open, the slide is locked back. I can look down through the top of the slide, and I can see through the magazine well that there's no magazine in here. And I can look right here in the chamber, and this is the important part, and I can visually see that there's no ammunition in the gun. I can also take my finger and I can have a tactile reference. I can reach in there even if it's low light and I can tell that there's no ammunition in the chamber. Now an important tip about dropping this magazine and manipulating this handgun whenever you're clearing it is again to observe the second rule of firearm safety and always keep this muzzle pointed in a safe direction. So everything that I just showed you, I kind of move the gun around so that I can give you a better view of the different controls on the handgun. That's because this area here is very safe and I pretty much have a safe direction in all these areas, okay? But in your house or on the range or wherever you're at, there's going to be pretty much one safe area. So let's use the example of being at the range. If I'm going to clear this handgun and this is the direction that the targets are in, that's the safe area. I want the bullets to go into the berm if this gun goes off, into the target preferably, but into the berm if the gun goes off and we miss the target, right? So I'm going to keep the muzzle of the gun pointed in that direction. So in your house, maybe the floor is the safest direction. So you're going to keep it pointed at the floor the entire time that you do these manipulations. So again, showing what that looks like. If we're keeping everything in front of us, the muzzle is pointed in the safe direction, so I'm going to drop this magazine right here. My finger is off the trigger, the muzzle is pointed in the safe direction. I stow the magazine. I'm going to rack the slide just like that, and I'm not going to turn the gun in order to operate the slide lock. I'm going to keep the muzzle pointed in the safe direction. I'm going to turn my body, if necessary, to get the leverage that I need to manipulate the gun. The entire time, I'm keeping this muzzle in a safe direction. Some firearms trainers that I know like to refer to this as like, imagine there's a laser beam coming out of the end of the gun, and anything that you cross, it's going to cut it in half like a lightsaber, okay? But whatever you have to do visually, whatever to keep your focus here, you're going to keep the muzzle pointed in a safe direction. So that's how you clear a gun and make it safe. Again, if we're in our house and maybe the floor is the only safe direction, then we're going to keep it pointed at the floor for the safe direction. But the point is that you keep the muzzle in a safe direction as you do these manipulations. So now this gun is clear, it's empty, and I know that. So now if I have to do anything else with it, if I'm going to dry fire, then I can dry fire with it. If I'm going to take it apart because I'm going to do some maintenance to it, or I'm going to clean it or something like that, then I'm going to do it. And if you notice, throughout all of this, my trigger finger stayed high and tight, away from the trigger, outside of the trigger guard, up here at a tactile reference point. Now again, the key here is every single time you pick up a gun, you do this. So if I'm at a gun shop and the guy at the counter clears the gun and he checks it and he makes sure that it's empty, as soon as he hands me the gun, I'm not just gonna make sure that he did it right. I'm gonna take the gun, I'm gonna make sure there's no magazine, I'm gonna clear it the exact same way that I just showed you right there. Every single time that I pick up a gun, you have to make it habitual so that you're always checking. There's redundancy, there's layers of safety that we're gonna build into our processes and our habits around handling firearms so that we never have an accident. If I'm dry firing and I put the gun down and I go to do something else, or somebody interrupts me or whatever it is, and I come back to dry fire, I'm not gonna pick up the gun and assume that it's loaded. Because it's out of my possession. So every time the gun is out of my possession, out of my eye line, I'm gonna pick the gun up, I'm gonna do a safety check, I'm gonna go ahead and make sure that that gun is clear and it's in the condition that I need it to be in. And the same thing goes if you're ready to get your gun on for the day. You're going to clear it first, and then you're gonna load it up and make sure that it's in the condition you want with a round in the chamber before you go out into the world carrying. So again, this may sound simple and like you already know this, but please share this with anybody that you know that doesn't know the 4 fundamental rules of firearm safety. And especially those people that think it's beneath them, or that they're above this, or they grew up with guns, or whatever it is, or they really just don't understand the true meaning of rule number 1 of treating all guns as if they're loaded. And remember, one of the best ways to practice with your gun and get better at clearing it and getting it empty is to dry fire. That's why we have a free dry fire program. It's in the description below. Just go ahead, click down below, sign up today. It's free, and we will see you in the next video.